Hello everybody and welcome back to another new vlog. Today I've come back to my local nature reserve, a spot where I haven't actually been for a few months, mainly because the last time I was here I seemed to interrupt something which appeared to be a drug deal taking place, and I was a bit nervous about coming back here again so soon. So I've decided to bite the bullet and see what I can find down here today. It's a lovely sunny warm day today. Temperatures are about 24 degrees. There's a little bit of high cloud in the sky. It's a little bit hazy sunshine, but it's quite a nice day. And actually it's the first time I've been to this nature reserve in the summer months for quite a few years. So it's going to be quite an interesting little excursion today. I want to talk to you a bit more about the EOS RP, which I recently bought, and I'm going to do that in just a minute. In the meantime, if you enjoy this video, please remember to like and subscribe, and meanwhile I'll get into the video. The whole area is very overgrown in the summertime, and it means that the images that I can get now will be very, very different to images that I've got previously in the spring, autumn and the winter months, when I haven't really been down here during the summer for a few years. So all the other images I've got recently of this place are at different times of the year. So I'm looking forward to this one. I was just watching a lovely pair of swans just behind me. This of course is near to the spot where I was actually very nearly attacked by a couple of swans way back in the early spring. So to see them again was quite interesting, and there they are just behind me, a couple of swans just there. Yeah, I wanted to talk really about some of the things with the Canon EOS RP, which I will be using. In my last vlog I was talking a little bit about a couple of the things that I didn't want to use very often, things that I have used, things that I've reviewed, and I feel that they probably don't work quite as well for me as a landscape photographer as they may do for somebody who might be a studio or a portrait photographer. So that's really quite interesting. But this time I want to talk about the things that are going to be useful to me, and one of those is the amazing autofocus system on the camera. I was absolutely blown away the first photograph I took using the autofocus on the EOS RP, because it's just so fast and it's pin sharp. I've got an image behind me now that I want to take, and I'll show you the image in a little while, but basically just behind me there are some trees. You can see where those swans are there, and then there are some trees on the other side of the pond here, and I want to get a little pano of some of those trees. There's some interesting details there. So I'm going to use the autofocus system in the camera to capture some pin sharp images of that. So just to explain that shot to you, basically I've got the tree line just across the water from me, and what I've got is there are several little gaps between the trees just at the edge of the water, and I'm trying to photograph a panorama between one gap, one side of a group of trees, and another gap on the other side. So I've got a gap between the trees on the left hand side of the image and a smaller gap on the right hand side of the image, and I'm simply photographing the very bottom of the tree line where it meets the water, which looks quite interesting. I don't know how it's going to turn out as a panorama, but the best thing about it is that while shooting a panorama I can start the panorama at one side of the image, use the autofocus system on the camera and focus on the one area that I want to focus on in the image, and then as I move the camera slightly to the right, from left to right, the focus will change very, very slightly. The area that I want in focus changes very, very slightly, so I then have to change my focus as well. So it's as easy as just using the live view screen on the back of the camera and just literally touching the screen. If any of you have watched my previous vlog from last week, you'll know that I had shot a long exposure photo at the very end of the video, and I'd had to hold down the shutter button for 15 or 30 seconds. I took several shots of it, so it was, I think the longest amount of time was 30 seconds. And the reason I had to hold down the shutter was I hadn't brought with me my shutter release cable, and I also hadn't realised at that point that the shutter release cable that I'd got didn't actually fit the Canon EOS RP camera. It does fit the old 600D that I'm using to film with, and it does fit into my Canon 1DS Mark III that I was using for about a year or so. I've still got that, so I may still shoot a few videos where I'm using that to take photos in the future, but who knows. In the meantime, I've actually ordered a brand new shutter release cable. It's exactly the same as the one that I've had previously, but this has got a slightly different connector on it, so it will connect now to the EOS RP, and that should be delivered today. So hopefully for my next video I'll be able to use that should I need to. A few weeks ago I also recorded another video where I was actually using the Canon EOS 600D as a photo camera, and as a result I couldn't actually use that to record video footage. I was trying to use a Holga plastic toy lens on that camera to see if the images that I could get out of that were any good. I really enjoyed that process, and I think it may be something that I'll be doing again in the future using the 600D, so look out for that in the future. But whilst I was doing that, I was using the EOS RP to record the video footage, because obviously I couldn't record video footage and camera and photos at the same time. It would have meant constantly changing lenses and trying to use one battery for two different jobs, and I would have ended up running out of battery and not being able to shoot the entire vlog. So I used the EOS RP instead for video, and I've got to say that's an absolutely brilliant feature as well. It means I can shoot at 60 frames per second instead of 30, and it also means I can shoot slow-mo footage as well, which is quite interesting. So in the future I'll be using that again for video, and again it's a brilliant system using the video on that camera, so I'm really looking forward to continuing to use that in the future. I've just stopped in this spot here. I've previously recorded a vlog here where I shot a panorama of this area quite early in the spring, just before the colours started to change, so we still had reds and browns on the trees, on the leaves of the trees, and it was quite an interesting shot. But I don't think there's a shot here now because it's just too green. There's not really anything standing out for me, so I'm going to move on and see what else I can capture. Just a few yards on, and I did find a little spot where I thought I'd be able to get a decent shot. Just across the pond from where I was standing there was a tree branch or a twig sticking up out of the water, and it made for an interesting composition on its own. So I started to set up the camera, 70 to 300mm lens, shooting at around about 190mm, maybe 200, and just as I was setting up, a little coot decided to swim up and sit on top of the tree branch that was sticking out of the water. So I tried to capture a few shots of him. Using the autofocus system, of course, I was able to focus perfectly on the coot, which was probably about 30 or 40 feet in front of me, and to capture a decent photo. He kind of sat there for a few minutes washing himself, and while he was there another duck came along. It looked like a mallard duckling, and that came along and also climbed up on the other end of the log, and I tried to get a shot while he was there as well. So I think I've got a couple of decent shots of both of those ducks actually on the log, which might be interesting. But of course that's all using the autofocus system on the Canon EOS RP, which I love. That was quite interesting. I was looking at the other side of a pond just back there, and I discovered there are some reeds at the far side of it, probably about 40 or 50 feet away from where I was standing. I was on a very narrow path, which I'm still on by the way, and I found I couldn't really do anything as far as getting a tripod out was concerned, so I had to handhold. So I grabbed the camera, got the camera out the bag and started looking for a composition along the edge of those reeds, and as I was doing that, who walked into my frame? Mr. Heron. So I've got a few images again of a grey heron just moving around in the undergrowth there. Again, I don't know if they'll be any good. I also managed to get a shot of the reeds that I was trying to shoot in the first place, but that was quite interesting, finding a heron again. So hopefully that'll come out nicely. Just so you can see just how overgrown this place is now. I'm walking along quite a wide path, which normally in the past I've walked along and there's just nothing around. The path is very light and open and airy, but as it is now, with all the leaves all over the trees and everything overgrown, it looks completely different to how I've seen it before. I'm going to call it a day for this vlog now. I know that there's nothing else really to photograph along here for the rest of this pathway, so I think that's it for today. I hope you've enjoyed the images, and I hope you've enjoyed watching me explain why I like the EOS RP so much. Obviously I'll be using it again for more photography in the future, and I'll almost certainly be using it again for more video in the future as well. So keep an eye out for that. In the meantime, if you've enjoyed this vlog, please like and subscribe, and remember, send me any comments you'd like to send me and I'll try and answer all of them. Bye for now.